It seems like every day an exhibition or gallery opens up in the heart of Tel Aviv. But it's not every day that an artist like our next guest shows her work. Here to discuss her new solo exhibition entitled Penetration, opening on January 5th, is international artist Debi Oulu. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you, Natasha.
So first off, tell us about your solo exhibitions.
Well, this exhibition is really exciting. It's actually my first exhibition. I've been an artist now full-time for 6 years, but this is my first full-body piece of work that I feel really represents who I am and what my art is about. So I'm super excited about it. And it's a series of sculptures, which are portraits of people. They're even called by the people's first names. But rather than creating a portrait of how somebody looks and trying to get to the inner essence of them through their eyes or their emotions or facial expressions, I basically peeled off their skin, if you could say, and gotten to the inner essence. So
what does that mean? How do you get to the inner essence?
Well, because I'm a sculptist, I've taken materials, which is these illuminated cables that I have, which represent the inner essence, and I've combined them with objects that tell stories. Objects that have histories on them. They could be a burnt piece of wood that's been burnt in a fire that has a history behind it, or a piece of metal, forged metal. Different objects that have stories behind them.
And you said, I mean, each of these sculptures has its own name, and
yes.
I guess that it corresponds to a real living human being, correct? So
definitely.
How do you incorporate the inner essence of these specific individuals? It's through these items?
It's a combination. I mean, these ropes sort of intertwine and knot, also to portray the inner essence of them, the soul, if you might say, the luminescence of them. And these objects, I sort of work from both ends. I find objects, people give them to me a lot of times. The objects have meaning and history behind them. And I try and match them with the people that have in some way affected me in a strong way. People who I've met throughout my life.
Do they know that you've created these sculptures of them necessarily?
Most of them do. I did ask their permission because I'm using their first name to call each piece. There is a few pieces that are going to be anonymous because they asked.
Those people should probably be scared, or no?
Well, I'll tell you, it's really interesting because it ended up being that these pieces are much more exposing than even a nude portrait would be, because I've taken something that's very personal from the inside and I've brought it out.
Right.
And people feel it. I had one of the sculptures is called Moti, and it's after my father-in-law who passed away. And my husband didn't know at the time that this was what I was doing, creating these sculptures that are portraits. And when he saw the finished portrait of his father, not even knowing it was his father, he was like, I can't have that hanging up in my house right now. It was just too hard for him, and he didn't even know that I was sculpting his father. He's just like, it's beautiful, but I can't have it hanging up.
That's unbelievable. Well, I really want to go check this out. So, much of your work is interactive, and your work at Midburn, which is Israel's Burning Man Festival, for those of us who don't know, is also very special. What makes your work so interactive? Tell us about that.
Well, I studied at University Communications. I wasn't an art major. I studied art afterwards. So communications to me is an important part in my art. It's how does art communicate? Art as a language. We communicate now through English. Other people communicate through music quite often. And art is a form of communication that connects directly to people without bypassing our language. And so interactive art, to me, is having a two-way conversation. Frontal art, the conventional art as we know of, is very much a one-way conversation in a way. So I like two-way conversations.
So what's next for you? What can we expect?
Well, this series is going to be carrying with me for a while because I feel like I've just tapped the surface of it, or penetrated through the surface of it. But I'm also working on, for Midburn, a huge interactive climbing wall with a bunch of, I call them the crazy Russians. We actually built a climbing wall 2 years ago, but this year it's going to be with electrical lights and touch. When you touch then climb the wall, it's going to change colors and have different patterns. That's sort of towards the summer.
All right, well, I can tell you I'm looking forward to seeing this new exhibition of yours, and thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much, Natasha.